Preschool. Prison. It's all about power. Who has it? Who doesn't? And how does that change the way we treat each other?
Power makes you less attentive to other people's beliefs, thoughts, and desires, and less concerned with harming them in your moral judgments.
Abu Ghraib Prison, Iraq, 2003. Scenes of young American soldiers torturing their prisoners, disturbing displays of power and brutality, shocked the public.
That type of situation was completely unsurprising to anybody who had ever taken social psychology.
Psychology studies have long shown that power can change people's behavior. One famous example is the Stanford prisoner experiment of 1971, where researchers set up a simulated jail in the basement of their building.
People who were randomly assigned to be guards started physically and psychologically abusing the undergraduates who were playing the role of prisoner. They became very sadistic, and the prisoners became very meek and depressed over the course of just a few days. The undergraduates who were playing these roles without instructions on what to do suddenly started playing them too well.
In Rebecca Saxe's lab at MIT, researchers are building on these earlier studies and looking for an everyday link between power and moral decisions.
Can this type of thing affect all of us kind of in everyday life? So not in these extreme conditions where someone is playing the role of a prisoner or a guard, but just you and I and everybody else.
To see if subtle or even subconscious changes in power can affect people's decisions about harm, Emile designed an experiment where two subjects came into the lab to test their moral perceptions. They were strangers and entered the experiment as equals.
All right, so Pete, why don't you take Dr. Saxe's chair? Sure. And the computer laptop is going to be there. And Henrik, just move that seat there, and that'll be your computer.
Okay.
So the idea was that if one subject was in a larger, more powerful desk, that they might feel subconsciously in a position of power, whereas the person at the smaller, less formal desk would feel subconsciously less powerful.
The survey started with a writing prompt. The person at the big desk wrote about a time she felt powerful. The person at the smaller desk wrote about a memory of feeling disempowered. Then they moved on to a questionnaire.
It was about 30 questions, and it included the questions we were really interested in. These questions about how permissive is it to harm other people. Weigh in on this issue. It's never okay to kill another human being. What are you thinking about at that moment? If you personally are disempowered, if you're one who's used to being kicked around, if you're the one who was bullied in school, that's the type of question where you're probably going to be self-reflecting. You're going to say, well, it really sucked to be kicked around.
People in the little desk reacted that way. They agreed with that statement. It's not okay to kill another person, even more strongly than they had before they came into the experiment. Empowered people were more okay with the idea of harming someone.
You might be thinking sometimes you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet.
It's not surprising that people given power use it, but this simple experiment shows how much and how quickly people's attitudes can change.
Maybe I would say we were blown away, that something that feels so important and intrinsic as your judgment about how wrong it is to harm or kill another human being could be changed by something as apparently trivial as a 5-minute experience of being the relatively more powerful person in a completely meaningless and arbitrary situation.
Is there anything besides the essay that you think could have affected how you answer questions on the survey?
Nobody said they felt empowered or disempowered based on where they were sitting, but some people seemed to notice it subconsciously.
That's a good question. How comfortable I am in the chair, I don't know.
When I showed Rebecca the initial results for this study, she was a little bit terrified.
It's my desk. They're sitting at my desk when they're getting more cavalier about harming people.
Teachers can't always put themselves in their students' shoes. Bosses may have forgotten what it was like to be an intern. Subtle power differences play out in these everyday situations, just like they did in Abu Ghraib.
Very small changes in our environment can have dramatic effects on our behavior in ways that we're completely unaware of.
It feels like a very powerful observation that you could change the context so little, and in so doing, change something about somebody else's mind.
The hope is that this research will do more than just confirm a gloomy view of human nature, but help solve the very real issues of conflict between groups. White and black South Africans, Israelis and Palestinians, policemen and protesters. In conflict after conflict, there's a pattern of power discrepancy. Each group has a different mindset.
Because all of our relationships are tinged with power and power differences, in order to know how to make our relationships better, we have to know how they're affected and hampered by power.